I was able to stack up 9,805 points for damage arc enemies on the beaches during a day raid on Riventides using only an anvil and items I bought from the shops. Now for my equipment, I wanted to make it absolutely expedition friendly for all of y'all that have gone on the expedition and don't have access to the stronger weapons. So the rules that I put in place for myself is no Jupiter, no hole cracker, and I can only use the items or weapons that were in the shops that you can buy from Tian, Apollo, or Lance. Now there are two exceptions. One, my augment was the looting MK3 Survivor, which obviously requires a blueprint, but you can use the looting MK2 just fine and fit everything that is in my bag into that bag, which you can buy from Lance. And two, I had extended barrels on both of my anvils, which specifically only increases the bullet projectile speed. Being normally a hit scan player, it just helps me to be more accurate. Now for my equipment, I brought in 2 anvils with 8 stacks of ammo, a light and a medium shield, 6 seeker grenades, 3 snap blast grenades, 1 deadline, 3 trailblazers, 6 stacks of light impact grenades, 2 stacks of herbal bandages, 2 stacks of shield rechargers, 2 stacks of herbal bandages, and 2 stacks of adrenaline shots, and a Raider hatch key. Now I did bring in a photoelectric cloak, which I didn't really use until the very end of the match, and a set of barricades that I also did not use at all. So you're welcome to swap those out for other items. Now once you spawn in, you want to head for the Port Authority building deeper on the beach. For this challenge, there is a specific area on the beach that will award you points for every elimination that you get. And honestly, it's a little bit vague as to where that line starts and ends. So my recommendation for you during your run is to assume that the very edge of the cranes, the large orange cranes that essentially overhang the beach, is where the zone starts, and then all the way out to the water is where the zone ends. Assuming that that is where the zone is should ensure that you get your points for every elimination. Now in terms of the scoring, the smaller and less dangerous arc enemies will give you a lower volume of points, and the larger, more dangerous arc enemies will give you a higher volume of points. So since you're running with a double anvil setup, my recommendation is to essentially focus on the middle of the pack. You will earn a decent amount of points from comets, leapers, rocketeers, fireflies, and hornets, and all of these you can find pretty regularly while you're on the beach. Now additionally, something I learned later in this match that you're going to want to do up front yours is all of the enemies inside of the Port Authority building also will count for this challenge. There's at least one shredder that patrols inside, as well as some fireballs and pops that can help you jumpstart your score and start the respawn timers. After that, you just want to get onto the roof of the Port Authority building using a zip line to get up there. Now, once you're on top of this building, you want to pick off the fireflies and the hornets and any wasps that is in the immediate area to ensure that you're clear to engage with the more dangerous arc threats. Once you've cleared those out, you want to engage with the more dangerous arc enemies. You want to look for a Rocketeer or a Leaper anywhere on the map and aggro it to you. For me, I had a Rocketeer, but no Leaper spawned in the beginning, so I started with a Rocketeer. Remember not to deal too much damage to the enemy until it is much closer to you on the beach to ensure that you're getting your trials points for this challenge. Now on the roof, there are a bunch of large metal crates, and these make perfect cover pieces for dealing with Rocketeers. When using an anvil to fight a Rocketeer, you have 2 different options that you can go with. Either put all of your shots into the center body and just work it down that way, or you can just shoot out the thrusters and it will fall and crash to the ground. Keep in mind that if you choose to go with that route, when it falls to the ground, if it doesn't explode, it will begin taking its own self-damage from being on the ground and wiggling in place, and you'll begin to lose trials points for it. So to avoid that and to ensure that you don't lose points that way, just focus on hitting the center body of the Rocketeer. This is also a good opportunity to use your seeker grenades. Using all 6 on one Rocketeer will deal a significant amount of damage and make it much easier for you to finish it up with your anvil. Now you can have a Bastion that will either patrol the beach or will patrol one of the extractions a little bit further back. If it is further back and you happen to get a line of sight on it, you do want to aggro it and engage with it so that it starts walking towards the beach. Make sure you equip a deadline and keep hitting it with your anvil slightly to ensure that it continues to walk to you. And then after each shot on the Bastion, make sure you're checking your logbook to see if you're actually earning points for the damage you're dealing to it. This will ensure that you get the full amount of points for dealing damage to that Bastion. Once the Bastion is in range and you're earning trials points for damage, aim your anvils at a single leg and specifically target the yellow joints. Shooting a single yellow joint multiple times will cause it to explode, and once it explodes, the Bastion becomes immobilized for 10 seconds. Once this happens, you need to sprint out and jump up on top of Bastion and place the deadline in the center of its head. And that deadline, it needs to be placed as close to the center as possible. Once you've placed the deadline, jump off of Bastion's head and get yourself back to safety and make sure that you're fully covered from the explosion of the deadline. If placed correctly, you will one-shot the Bastion and earn a ton of points for it. Now, for fighting the Leapers, you just want to do essentially the same thing that you did with the Rocketeers, but just remember that they're going to leap at you and can deal significant amount of damage if they land on top of you. Use the large metal boxes to rotate around from Leapers' attacks, and either use the anvil to shoot its eye, or use any of the explosives that you brought in to deal significant damage to the Leaper. You can use your snap blast grenades, your light impact grenades, or even the trailblazers to make quick work of the Leapers. Now from here, it really is just a process of taking out the flying arc enemies when you don't have larger arc enemies on the field, and then switching to the larger arc enemies once they're back in rotation. Don't forget you can use a Raider Hatch if you want to get back to Speranza safely, or just use the extraction once you're ready to go. Once you've stacked up enough points and you're happy with your score, head back to Speranza, collect any loot if you haven't already, and watch your score fly up the leaderboard. That's going to be it for me today, y'all. Thanks for watching.